Luke chapter 1, verses 57 through 66. Now the time came for Elizabeth to give birth, and she bore a son. And her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown great mercy to her, and they rejoiced with her. And on the 8th day they came to circumcise the child, and they would have called him Zachariah after his father. But his mother answered, No, he shall be called John. And they said to her, None of your relatives is called by this name. And they made signs to his father, inquiring what he wanted him to be called. And he asked for a writing tablet, and wrote, His name is John. And they all wondered. And immediately his mouth was opened, and his tongue loosed, and he spoke, blessing God. And fear came on all their neighbors. And all these things were talked about through all the hill country of Judea. And all who heard them laid them up in their hearts, saying, What then will this child be? For the hand of the Lord was with him. Mom's commentary. The story of John's life may seem minor because it's juxtaposed beside the birth of Christ, but his life was anything but ordinary. Here we see that John's circumcision was a community event to remember. Zechariah, as priest, would have been a prominent member of society, and since he and Elizabeth were now new parents in their old age, you can picture the exciting scene. Many will rejoice at his birth. Then Elizabeth, speaking for her mute husband, raises a ruckus by trying to name the child something outside their traditions. The incident reaches its climax when Zechariah is miraculously now able to speak. The reaction of the whole community was fear and awe. News spread, and the unanimous sentiment was that this child would be used by the Lord to do great things. Not only was John's conception a miracle, but the Spirit would be upon him for life. He would become great before the Lord, and would turn many to the Lord, calling them to repentance, and all the time doing it with the power of God like Elijah. He would bring healing to families, turning the hearts of fathers to their children, and change lives. Dad's commentary. Elizabeth's reproach is transformed into worship of the Most High God. Her neighbors and relatives had heard that the Lord had shown great mercy to her. All those who had called her barren, those who had questioned, pitied, gossiped, looked down, and shamed her, now saw God's great mercy. They now rejoiced with her in God's great mercy. Surely many women had babies around the same time as Elizabeth, but only John's birth showed God's great mercy to her neighbors and relatives. Of course, the birth of every child is God's great mercy. The difference was in Elizabeth's waiting, suffering, and faithfulness. It was the 30 to 40 years of sadness and reproach that caused God's great mercy to shine so brilliantly. Whatever challenges, suffering, reproach, and waiting you are facing, walk faithfully and patiently with God until He makes it a trophy of grace, and the world will see your Father's great mercy and rejoice with you.